Wow, looks like I'm live. And gosh, it's been a while, hasn't it? It has been a while. But I am back. And this is probably going to be one of the hardest live streams I've ever done. It has been a few weeks. Let me just try to get myself organized here. I've been postponing and postponing this live stream. I said, you know what? I just got to get on and do it, right? Just gotta jump in. A lot of stuff has happened. A lot has happened. Let me see if I can get my notes here. I do have a lot of notes tonight. Um, so I'm definitely going to be, glancing at my notes. And the irony is that when I actually started putting these thoughts together, it was a couple weeks ago when I usually do my Making Mondays Matter live stream, and I didn't do it that particular Monday. I postponed it, but I had a lot of notes already written down, and stuff just happened. Um, like I said, this is going to be a hard live stream to do, and I decided I just needed to stop postponing, and I needed to just get back in the game. And one of the questions, I actually have it written down here after I wrote these notes here just a few days ago, but my initial live stream, I have it written on something else. And I tell you what the question is written down here, and then I explain why I asked that question. And the question is, how do we keep on showing up in our business when life kind of gets in the way? And I asked that question because I'm really hoping I'm going to be able to get through this live stream, okay? On September 25th this year, and I spoke about this in another live stream. A lady that I was taking care of, she passed away, and I've spoken about that, and I've kind of been processing everything, um, having literally watched someone transition, right? But over the last week and a half, it's week and a half. It's been a week and a half. I've had two really good friends pass away. One of them unexpectedly. The other one had been fighting cancer for a number of years. So I had just gradually gotten sicker and sicker. So in a sense, that one was, I don't want to say expected, but it wasn't as much of a shock as the one that occurred a week and a half ago. And what makes that one even harder is that he was a business partner, but it was also a friend. But this was someone that we saw every single week in our business meetings, and we would talk on the phone, we would text back and forth. So it's that's what makes this a little bit harder. And I'm going to step away for a minute. I forgot to turn my phone down. So give me one moment. Yeah, I knew I was forgetting to do something. Then my phone goes off. So let me go ahead and just turn my phone down. So yes, a week and a half ago, we learned that a business partner and a friend passed away suddenly. And then, of course, this past Saturday, my another friend passed away. So it's been really, really hard. Um, and This is why I've been postponing this live stream and postponing this live stream, because I really didn't think that I could get on here and actually do this live stream, and share this stuff. Because and then I was watching another friend do her live stream recently, and one of the things that she mentioned was, you know life tends to get in the way, and we have to keep showing up in our business even when life gets in the way. And life could be as simple as your kid getting a cold and having to stay home from school, and you've got to, tend to your child. Or it could be as as huge as a death, in this case, two within a week. Literally two in a week. One was on a Saturday and the other one was on the following Saturday. So how do you keep showing up? Um, and I just had to ask myself that question. Why am I shying away from showing up? Because I need to be showing up in my business. Um, I've spent a lot of time crying. I've spent a lot of nights just not sleeping. And this is I'm leading into what would have been my Making Mondays Matter motivational speech. I know it doesn't sound like that much right now, but it's going to lead there. And this is as much for me as it is for those of you who might be watching. It is not it This is as much therapy for me, and hopefully it it gives and someone out there a little bit of hope. um I know a lot of the times I come across in my live streams as being this just really strong, and I very resilient and that sort of thing, and I am. But when you lose someone who means a lot to you, someone that you're really close to, and then when you lose two of them back to back, it does something to you, right? I mean, you can't. And I had to really face that, and I had to come to grips with, you have to show up. Um you can't just come to a standstill, right? And I spent a lot of nights just I don't know. I'm sure that it showed up when every time I changed the time and I rescheduled and I rescheduled and I rescheduled. I'm pretty sure that it shows up on, wherever I have these posted saying new time, new time, new time. And you're probably thinking, my goodness, what in the world? It's like constantly changing the time. But I needed that time. I needed to be able to grieve. And I'm not saying that I've finished grieving. I don't think there's a deadline on the whole grieving process, but I had to come to a place where I needed to show up, and I needed to face what I was facing and let you all know what I was facing, and share that with you. Because I think we need to be transparent. I don't think coaches want to give the impression that, we've got this tough exterior and nothing bothers us, and that's the furthest thing from the truth. Is I think as coaches we need to show the people that we're trying to help, or those who are coming to us for help, that we are human. We're not like these superhuman people who just don't feel anything. We are human. We do feel. we do get affected by life and whatever life tends to throw at us. We do get affected, and I think one of the things that we need to show is that yes, we are resilient. We bounce back, but we also need to have that time that we need to be able to grieve and move through, not necessarily move through and completely put it behind us as quickly as possible. I'm not suggesting that at all, but I do think that I just needed to show up. And I also needed to make sure I gave myself a kind of a grace period in order for me to feel what I was feeling and to just experience all of the emotions from um, the crying, the shock, um, the just wondering what's going to happen at our next meeting, because we have business meetings every Tuesday, and this is someone that we expected to be at the business meeting every Tuesday, and if he wasn't present, we always knew that we could reach him on the phone, or there was some way of getting connected, right? So my other business partners and I, we've been talking, and it's like, how do we get past this? Even now when we're talking, it's we always say, you know, um, we still talk as if David is going to be at this next meeting, and because we're a team, right? So it's hard coming to our next business meeting knowing that he's not going to be there, right? Or knowing that my friend who just passed away from cancer is not going to be answering my calls anymore. Um, just two friends who have been an integral part of my life, right? So that's one of the things I had to really. Um, that's what I've been working with over the last couple of weeks, was just giving myself a little bit of time to process. And I'm still processing, and I'm still grieving, and I decided I will just show up tonight and let whatever happens. I did mention I do have notes, um, and I'm just going to give myself permission to continue speaking, and whatever emotions come up, just let them come up. And if I have to end the live stream, make it shorter than I initially planned, then I'll do that as well. But I'm here, and just wanted you to know what's happening. But I didn't want to keep postponing, because you know what, life moves on, right? And I just want to make sure that I'm here supporting you as well, and I'm here reaching out also for your support. All right, so if you're going through anything like that right now, because I know that there's quite a few people in the lupus community who are dealing with a lot. I mean, the communities in general are dealing with a lot. There's a lot of pain out there. There's a lot of grief. People have lost a lot of loved ones the last few months, the last year. So I don't make lightly of any of that stuff, because I know that it's been a challenge, right? So one of the things, when it comes to grieving, and this, like I said initially, this was not even part of my of what I wanted to talk about tonight, but I decided I'd go ahead anyway. And I made a note. One of the things that I do, and this might sound strange, but if you're dealing with grief, if you're mourning the loss of a loved one, if you're going through something that's really, really hard, one of the things that I wrote down is use your calendar. Your phone has this beautiful calendar built in, right? So you go to your calendar, and you click on, mine comes up right there. So today's the 10th. So I click on it, and you can see my calendar is full. It's got a lot going on. So today is the 10th. So I click on there. And one of the things that you do is you utilize your calendar. You click on that little plus sign and you add in an event, right? One of the things you can do is you plan rest time. You plan in a time where you can just get by yourself. If you need a few minutes just to boohoo cry, just plan it into your calendar. I know it sounds weird. I know it sounds weird, but it works because if you have to, you don't want to be sitting at a table working and then all of a sudden you just start. You do what you have to do. You plan in some rest time into your calendar, or cry time or whatever kind of time that you're going to need. There are times when I was taking care of Abuelita, and this is the 95-year-old lady that I was taking care of. And there were times when I, was taking care of her, and I would give her some medicine, and she would say something. We would just be talking, and she knew that her time was coming to a close, right? And she would say stuff, and she didn't know this, but at times I would just leave her presence, and I would come into my room, and I would just spend 5 minutes just boohoo crying. And then I would just wipe my face. I'd go to the restroom. I'd wash my face and remove all evidence that I was ever crying. And then I would go back out and I would sit with her for a little bit longer. I needed those moments. I didn't want her to see me crying, but I know that I needed to just let that emotion just flow through me in order to be able to take care of her. And there were many times that I did that. There were times when I would put her to bed and I would just come into the room and I would just cry. And then I'd wash my face again and I'd go out and I would sit with her daughter and we'd watch a movie together. And even now I'm taking care of her daughter, or helping to take care of her daughter. And I do the same thing. But she's not, sometimes it does come out, when I'm sitting there, we're talking, and I do get emotional. But when you just need a good cry, I just plan it into the calendar. Or if I can't really plan it in, I'll just excuse myself and I'll come in and I'll just sit here in the room and I'll just cry in 5 minutes and then I'll go back out. Right? So use your calendar, plan in your rest time, plan in cry time, whatever it is you want to call it, right? If you do run a business, and plan in family time. Family time is huge, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you plan in your family time. Make sure that there's a time when business is set aside and you focus just on family, right? And a few other things. Just give yourself permission to do these things, right? Don't. I think we're expected, especially as women, we're expected to be like this, strong and independent and together all the time. And, we take care of the family, we take care of all the other stuff. And we don't really take a lot of time to take care of ourselves the way that we should a lot of the times. Guilty as charged. And I think sometimes we kind of wait on people giving us permission to take care of ourselves. And I think we need to just stop and say, listen, we have to give ourselves permission to do that, because we cannot serve or take care of other people if we are completely depleted. We cannot serve from an empty cup. And we shouldn't even serve from a full cup. We're supposed to be serving from the overflow. We're serving from the saucer. So we have to make sure that we are completely nourished and fulfilled and overflowing with everything that we need to be able to serve others, right? And we have to give ourselves permission to do that. Whether it's taking 30 minutes every single day for personal meditation, or you're extra long bath soak in the bathroom, whatever that looks like for you, give yourself permission to just have your you time, your me time, whatever you want to call it. Okay. I woke up one morning and it was this story. I don't know if you've ever heard the story about the cheetah and the antelope, and or the cheetah and the gazelle. It depends on what video you're watching, but go and look it up on YouTube. There's quite a few things on there about the story of the cheetah and the antelope. And I woke up with this as a reminder, okay? Because I realized that there was just so much that was going on. You know, when you have two good friends that passed away a week within a week of each other, it does something to you. And I woke up one morning because I had such a hard time sleeping that night, and I woke up during the night and there literally was like a lump in my throat, like a lump. I couldn't scream, I couldn't cry, I couldn't speak. It was nothing, and it was like this lump. And the reminder I got was of the cheetah and the antelope. And you have to remember, I teach about this stuff, right? I teach about taking care of your nervous system and not being stuck in fight, flight, or freeze, and making sure that your parasympathetic is always nourished, and taking care of the vagus nerve. And I teach about this stuff, but I found myself getting stuck in fight, the in the sympathetic, right? In the fight, flight, or freeze. And I got to the point where I was frozen. I mean, I couldn't scream, I couldn't speak, I couldn't cry. Nothing was coming. And the story that I was reminded of was the cheetah and the antelope. And the story basically goes, okay, just imagine a group of antelope are grazing in the African Sahara. They're a bunch of antelope are grazing. Okay, they're grazing, and there's a cheetah just lurking in the tall grasses, and they're watching, right? Because they're wanting dinner or whatever, they're wanting their next meal. So they're looking for like the weakest link out of all of the antelope, right? And the cheetah gets its sight on this one antelope, right? And when it's ready, it strikes and it rushes out and it's chasing this antelope, right, till it's got it in its grasp. And then the antelope suddenly just drops and it's motionless, as if it's dead, right? So, the cheetah, I mean, it's a kind of like a lion or whatever, predator type of animal. They like to hunt. They like to kill something. They don't want to eat something that's dead. So of course, when the antelope drops and acts dead, the cheetah is no longer interested, right? So the cheetah goes off to chase another antelope, right? And for a few minutes, the antelope that it was initially chasing is just laying motionless, as if it's dead. And it turns out that this is a defense mechanism where the antelope just drops, acts as if it's dead, and then, the danger goes off, right? The cheetah goes off. After a few minutes, the antelope gets up, and you could visibly see the antelope shakes, right? Shaking. Basically, this is supposed to be kind of a resetting of the nervous system. And then from there on, the antelope goes off and just spends hours just resting to allow its body to recover. Now, this is a natural thing to do. In the end, that's the natural thing to do. When this antelope encounters danger, it for a moment freezes, but then it gets up, it shakes it off, it goes off, and it rests. That's putting your body into that kind of rest and digest, rest and refresh mode after the danger has passed, right? But human beings We don't do that. I think we've forgotten how to do that. Most of us get stuck in the fight, fright, or freeze portion, which is the sympathetic nervous system, right? And a lot of the times we get frozen in, we get that scare, but then we freeze in that particular moment, and that gets locked into our DNA, and we forget that we're supposed to shake it off and spend some time resting for our bodies to recover before we move on. But we lock all of that into our system. It becomes a part of us, and then years later, you know, all of a sudden, illness develops, right? Because we've forgotten the whole natural thing about shake it off, shake it off. And it also reminds me a lot of the I don't know if you heard about the donkey that the farmer decided, really wasn't worth anything anymore, so he threw the donkey into the well, and they proceeded to throw dirt to bury the donkey, right? Because they were trying to just take it out of his misery, but every time they poured the dirt in, the donkey would shake it off and stepped up, right? Use the all of the dirt that was being poured in, would shake it off, step up, and each pile of dirt was created. It was used as a stepping stone, and then after a while, the donkey stepped out of the well, right? They thought they were burying the donkey, but the donkey stepped out of the well by using all of that dirt as a stepping stone, right? So that we need to be reminded. And that was my reminder that morning when I woke up and I couldn't speak and I couldn't scream and I couldn't cry because my throat was just locked. And ironically enough, the meditation that I've been working on for the last few weeks have to do with the energy center called the throat, right? It's your voice box, the thyroid glands, all of that stuff around here. So it was just so almost prophetic that I've been working on this stuff, and then losing two friends, and just all of this stuff has just seemed to be happening all at once. But it was just a good reminder to me that I need to, even though as tough as this period is that I'm going through and that my team is going through, that we need to not get frozen in this period, but we need to shake it off, right? And start moving forward, because that I know is what our team member Dave would want. That is certainly what my friend Alan, who passed away on Saturday, would want. And Alan was, years ago when I first met him, he had a company that framed art. And I had a lot of artwork that he framed up for me for shows and that sort of thing. But one of the things that stuck out to me, and I still have this piece. Years ago in Coco, we put on the very first. It was called, I think it was called First Night. I don't think we called it First Night, but it was based on that whole idea of First Night, which is the New Year's Eve. So we had this huge family event, and I created a piece of artwork that I donated to the city, and they created posters, and they were selling buttons made from this piece of artwork. And there was news articles went out in the newspaper and everything. And I remember getting a knock on my door sometime later, and Alan was there, and he presented me with this framed piece of work. And the piece was the newspaper article, one of the buttons that was created for that event, as well as the piece of artwork that I had donated, a copy of the poster. And it was nicely framed up. And he said to me, "This is a commemorative piece of art for you to remember the first night event that was put on here." And I thought that was so sweet, because it wasn't just like just a basic frame. It was a nice gold frame, everything well put together. And I still have that piece. But over time, we just became very good friends, right? So it's been, gosh, I want to say 20, almost 20 years that we've been friends. And David, I was very good friends with his wife. And then, of course, became friends with him, and he became our team member. So it is a hard thing to be dealing with, right? But when I was reminded of the cheetah and the antelope, it it really struck home that yes, we do need this period to mourn, to grieve, but we also, it was a reminder not to get stuck, not to get stuck in the moment, because we need to be able to process all of these emotions and to be able to move on. And it was a reminder that I really needed to keep the focus on my health, because I'd worked so hard over the last few years, healing from lupus and all of the other stuff. And that morning was a scare when I couldn't scream, I couldn't speak, I couldn't, nothing, nothing, right? So that was a reminder that I needed to really pay attention and allow myself to grieve through all of that. And I have down here social media breaks. One of the things I decided to do, I don't know if anyone even really noticed, but I took a lot of breaks from Facebook, especially. I still posted quite a few things on Instagram, but I wasn't as present on on Facebook as I usually am. I would go on and I'd post whatever I needed to post, and then I would, come off, right? But so taking social media breaks, that's a really good thing. You can plan those in as well. Do everything you need to do, work on your business or work in your business during a certain time. And then if you don't need to be on social media, give yourself that space, give yourself that break from social media. And it's a very healthy thing to do. And this note I wrote here, predominantly for myself, was don't shy away from showing up, because I didn't want to show up because I was just so afraid of just like breaking down on camera. And I wanted to, yeah, and I mentioned this earlier. I think as coaches, we try to come up across as being like these superhuman people, that we got it together. And one of the reasons why I am doing what I'm doing is because I didn't have it all together. And I am still working on a lot of stuff, keeping stuff together, right? And it's I think a lot of coaches are that way. We are coaches because we've been through a certain situation. So now we're coaching other people on how to either maneuver through the situation or prevent the situation in the first place. So I think, but I think as coaches, we tend to kind of give that impression that we got it together, and we tend to shy away, or yeah, shy away from being vulnerable on camera. And I think that's one of the things that I was why I kind of stayed away from doing the live stream right after losing these close friends. And that's one of the things I'm encouraging you, is not to shy away from showing up, because I think when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, it shows those who we're coaching, who we're teaching, that yes, we do feel those things. But life isn't necessarily perfect for us. We do experience difficulties, we experience tragedies, we experience life, right? Because that's, but at the same time, we have good stuff also happening. So we don't want to share just the good, right? We want to show ourselves as, um, I want to say balanced, but show that we're not, our life isn't like 100% devoid of challenges, right? So let me so that was just a little bit about what's been happening. And initially, this is what I had written down prior to all of that stuff occurring. The initial live stream was supposed to be all about soul searching. I told you that this was my initial notes was very, very, it just seems very prophetic, ironic. I don't know whatever it is you wanna refer to it as. Yeah, this initial Making Mondays Matter episode was supposed to be all about soul searching, and after when you lose two friends so close together, it does it forces you to kind of sit down and really think about just how short life is. And you evaluate your own or reevaluate your own. And so, soul searching. What exactly is soul searching? And here's a definition that I found, right? Soul searching is an in-depth, honest evaluation or examination of your life's motivations, your values, your emotions regarding your life's path. That's one definition. It's also a deep dive into the deepest parts of your conscience and working towards understanding that you're at a profound level so that you can actually live out your purpose. Now, that's a mouthful, right? So how do we soul search? Apart from, sometimes having life throw you a curveball, how do you soul search? One of the things that I've done over the last week and a half was spending a lot of time alone. I've spent some time on the phone actually talking to the other team members as well, and just crying with them, because even though this particular team member was a good friend of mine, I had introduced him to the other team members and they'd also connected. So I had to realize that I'm not the only person mourning in this whole situation. Yes, I'm mourning a friend, I'm mourning a team member, but the other team members had also gotten really, really close to this particular team member, David, right? And I would speak to another team member who's also very, very close to me. We've also known each other for over 20 years, probably 23 years. So I would be on the phone with this other team member, and it is still a shock. It is still a shock. And he would be crying, and so we've both been kind of spending some time alone, processing how we're both feeling regarding what has happened, as well as spending time together, realizing just how close as a team we had gotten, and just how big a role David played in our team, and how much he is going to be missed. I mean, a lot of the projects that we were working on, one of the things we asked was how do we continue with these how do we continue with these projects? And the next question was, well, how do we not continue with these projects? Because these were his dreams, these were his goals, and this is what we've been working towards. And the thing was, we have to move forward and continue to to see his dreams come to fruition, right? So that's one of the things we've been doing. We spent time alone, but we also have been spending time together. We cry alone, we cry together. Um, we For me, meditation is huge. So I've spent a lot of time in meditation. I've gone down by the water. Um, there happens to be a lake out back. I'll sit by the water. I just watch the birds, and um, times I just sit there and I just cry, and I just let the tears come. Right. That's just one of the ways that I have just been kind of processing everything. So that is, for me, it's kind of the soul searching, losing. I guess when you get, I guess when you get to a certain age, you almost expect to be losing friends, but at the same time, I'm in my early 50s. We're still young. I consider myself to be still young. So, it's still kind of a shock, when stuff like this happens. You don't expect to be losing people at this age. Not yet, right? Another way of spending time with your thoughts, you could be sitting by the water, could be meditating, is, and if you've never done this is probably going to be the hardest thing. It's really hard to do. It's spending some time in an isolation tank, one of those sensory deprivation tanks where you're just floating. It's complete darkness. It's just you and your thoughts in darkness in this tank. You can't run from your thoughts. You're there, right? If you've ever spent time in a sensory deprivation tank, I would love to hear your experience, because there's nothing like it. Another way, if you can't get to a sensory deprivation tank to have that experience, another way of doing something, a similar way of doing it, is to just get yourself in a dark room, as dark as you possibly can get it, and just sit in the middle of the room, just you and your thoughts, and just be able to process, right? How you can have your journal beside you, and just kind of scribble. Trust me, the next morning when you look at it, it's not going to look like anything. It's just going to be like scribbles all over the place, because you're just going to get your pen and just write, kind of feel and write, because it's supposed to be a dark room. But that's one way of kind of soul searching and just getting one with your thoughts and processing your thoughts. Try to minimize as much of the distractions as you possibly can. So no phone, don't have a laptop on, no lights on whatsoever, and just find that time and that place where you can just be alone. Disconnect from social media. If being in a dark room is not, if you're not quite ready for that, not quite ready for the sensory deprivation tank, one of the things you can try to do is color. There's a lot of coloring books out there. While you're coloring, you can have your journal, or you can just have a coloring book where you can just write your thoughts in the edges of the coloring book as they come to you while you're coloring. You can just jot your thoughts down, right? So that's one way that you can do some soul searching. Just think about how you're feeling on a day-to-day. You can have just a regular journal. Let's see if I can find one. I don't think I have it here, but you can just get there's a regular composition book like this, and you can just put journal. You can dress it up with some stickers, however you want to do it, and you can just use that as a journal. Your your day to day, um, your day to day, thoughts. You can go in there. Um, so some of the questions that you can ask yourself as you're journaling is, what parts of you are feeling satisfied right now? Where do you have room to grow? Consider your core values, how you're abiding by them, how you're not abiding by them. I know when you're doing this soul searching, it's not just looking at the good stuff. You also have to look at where you've been neglecting. So what would you like to achieve? How do you identify in the world? All of these types of questions should be the type of thoughts that are coming in, right? Things that you're processing. Two, to reevaluate your life. And when you lose two friends a week apart, and even I mentioned the two friends, and I keep mentioning the two friends because they were a week apart. They were just like one Saturday, and the very following Saturday, another one. But then I also lost someone who was very close to me back in September, the lady that I was taking care of. She was not blood family, but she's family because she's my niece's great grandma, right? So she was family nonetheless. So it's not just the two friends, it's just three people within a matter of a few weeks, and that can really do something to you, right? So the second one, reevaluate your life. How is your everyday life supporting or diminishing your values, your motivations, and your authentic self? And one of the things I do when you have something like this happen, it when you lose someone close to you, it really makes you stop, whether it's suddenly, or through illness or through age, whatever the case is. It really does cause you to sit down and really think about your own life, right? So this is one of the things when we're doing the whole soul searching, is to really sit down and reevaluate your life. Are your relationships helping? Are they helping you to grow into the person that you want to become? So you really have to sit down and evaluate the relationships. You always hear these sayings that when you're in a room, you're the accumulation of the five people in the room. So who are you spending your time with, right? Um, so your relationships should be elevating you. They should be allowing you to grow, allowing you to think, right, and moving you forward. So these are the type of it's if you're developing a business, they say that if you're in a room with four millionaires or five millionaires, whatever the case is, you're going to be the next one, right? And I guess the opposite is also true, so we won't even mention that, but you get the idea. Spend time with people who are going to help you to move your dreams forward, who are going to raise you up, who are going to really cause you to think on a higher level, on a deeper level, right? Is your career fulfilling your life's motivations or your passions? And do you dedicate time and effort into building your hobbies or your passions, right? Whatever it is that causes you to jump out of bed in the morning, whether it's your job, your career, or whatever hobby that you're trying to build into a career. Are you dedicating time to these, or are you just kind of dreaming, yeah, one of these days I really want to do this because I really enjoy that. And it's very fulfilling when I do get to spend the 5 minutes, but I don't have just plan the time. You know what? Earlier I mentioned about that calendar on your phone. Utilize it. A lot of us spend so much time in front of a television, just mindlessly watching stuff, right? And then later on, we say, well, what did I do today? When you use that calendar, you can plan time, say, okay, today for 2 hours, I'm going to create a painting. It might not be the greatest painting, but at least I got to create. The idea is to create, right? Put something on canvas. If you're sewing, if you're learning how to sew, create. I don't care if it's the most beautiful doll. Create. If you're learning how to sew a skirt, create a skirt. You might not be able to wear it to the next ball, but you will have at least created. You're feeding your soul, right? And that's the idea, is to dedicate time to creating that passion, to developing that passion, right? Number three, I kind of mentioned earlier, build new relationships. And because these new relationships can help you to open your mind to life's diversified potential, right? When you meet new people, they start talking about the stuff that they're doing or that they'd love to do, and all of a sudden you realize, that that sounds really interesting. And then you start talking about the stuff that you'd like to do. And then you find, oh, that person might actually be able to help me to develop this thing that I want to do. And I might be able to help this person to develop that thing that they want to do. So develop these new relationships. You never know where they could take you, right? Learn to improve your communication. I know that's one of the things I talked about. And the next meditation that I'm going to be doing is all about the communication and your throat energy center. And I spoke a little bit earlier about the challenges that I had. Waking up one morning and I couldn't speak, I couldn't cry, I couldn't scream, I couldn't nothing. Everything was just blocked right there. And I had that's one of the reasons why I had decided not to do the live stream, and I kept postponing and changing the time because there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes. But I decided, it's time to just show up. We just got to show up, right? Start reflecting on things that you didn't know about yourself. That's the funny thing about journaling is when you start to journal, you start to just like making notes. You start to learn so much about yourself that you didn't know before. And I know that sounds strange, but journaling really allows you to come forward, right? You start to learn things that interest you. When you start to meet new people, you'll find that there are things that they might talk about that you might say, well, it's something that I've always wanted to do, but I just didn't think, okay, it's not me. I mean, what's so special about me that I think that I can do that? The thing is, if a dream has been dropped into your spirit, you owe it to yourself. Try it out. If you have been having this dream that you're going to develop this, car that drives on the road and then becomes a boat in the water. I don't know, maybe they already exist, but let's just hypothetically speaking, okay? And you suddenly meet someone and then they start talking about this idea, but you thought that it was just too crazy of an idea, but somebody just confirms to you that maybe it's just not crazy enough, collaborate, and who knows what can happen. But the thing is, you will learn so much about yourself when you just start to journal. I have a book filled with so many crazy ideas. It's just when I look at them, sometimes I laugh, but then I think, you know what? I like that saying in Alice in Wonderland and I think, yeah, Alice in Wonderland, and I don't remember who said it. I think it's either Alice or her dad. I don't remember. Don't quote me on this. But the quote was basically, I think it's 6 crazy ideas before breakfast, something to that effect. Don't know exactly. But that's the thought. That's the idea. You begin to say, maybe my ideas are really not that crazy, because you're hearing so many other people talk about stuff that they'd like to do. And you're like, well, why not me? Right? So come up with your crazy ideas. Develop new relationships that could possibly enrich those crazy ideas of yours, right? You never know. The next one is to cultivate, and this kind of develops from the last one I mentioned, cultivate that passion. Whatever that passion is, whether you want to go out, flip houses, or you want to build tree houses and build a hotel tree house complex, whatever like cases, cultivate that passion. Meet the people who are going to be able to help you to do that. Put yourself in a position where you're going to meet the people who are going to help you to develop that and let you know that your crazy idea is probably not crazy enough, right? But just get those ideas. And here's the thing: get those ideas out on paper. Here's the thing with me. I have a book. Looks just like this one. This isn't the one, but I do have a book. And every time an idea pops into my head, one of the things I do is I just write it down or I draw a picture, and then I go and I look it up on the internet. And I've done this recently because the idea that pops into my head is just so crazy, then I thought, let me go see if somebody has tried this before. And there's one idea that I'm working on right now. I've done a drawing on it, and I'm not going to say what it is because, there's some things that you just don't say. You just shh, you work on it, and then you show it, right? And I'm still developing this idea. There is a tool. I'm not sure if the tool exists because I'm going to need a particular tool to be able to create this one item. But I looked on the internet to see if anybody has created this particular thing. Nobody has. I've not seen it anywhere. Not on Etsy, not on any other website. And I've Googled in so many different search words to see if it would pop up, if it was under some other name. And I thought to myself, wow, this really is an original idea, and so I'm in the process of developing. And the thing is, it's not even huge. It's not a huge thing. Well, the item isn't huge, but the idea is very unique. And a lot of people look at my artwork already as being very unique and different. But this one particular thing, it's a three-dimensional object, and it just blew my mind but that's the thing. I wrote it down, and that's what I'm challenging you to do this. Get yourself a textbook. When ideas like this pop into, and I know I'm kind of rambling here, I get excited and I ramble. But anyway, get yourself a textbook. Whenever these crazy ideas pop into your head, write it down. Carry that textbook with you, or that journal, whatever the case is. Carry it with you wherever you go, so that when the idea pops into your head, you have it with you that you can write it down. It doesn't have to be as big as that book. I have a smaller one right here in front of me. Fits really easily into your purse, your pocketbook, your briefcase, whatever the case is, right? Always keep that with you. Take up a hobby, and I kind of mentioned this earlier. Take up a hobby, whether it's painting, sculpting, something that's going to nourish your soul. For me, art, herbalism, natural stuff, right? That's for me. One of the things I've always wanted to do, and I kind of played around with it a little bit when I was teaching high school sculpture and junior high art, right? Kind of played around with it because I would watch some of my favorite artists or research on them, Picasso especially. And I realized one thing about Picasso and a few other artists. Yes, they were painters, but they did this one thing. They all branched out into other fields. And I've done sculptures. I've done created quite a few sculptures. But one of the things I've always wanted to do was to create three-dimensional sculptures based on my artwork, meaning ceramics. I want to get into the field of ceramics. I love clay, and I've worked with clay a little bit, but I want to get to where I can create a three-dimensional piece from one of my artworks, right? I have a wearable art collection. So you can actually get artwork, get clothes that have my art printed on them. That's another way. So that's another dream that's been fulfilled, and I'm gradually kind of marketing that. But one of the things I've always wanted to do is to just develop more of like large sculptures with my artwork on there, right? So that's another dream of mine. But if you don't have a hobby, if you don't have something that nourishes your soul on a daily basis, find it, because everybody needs that. If you happen to have a career that's built around something that nourishes your soul, good for you. But a lot of people, they get up and they go to their 9 to 5 job and they come home and they, do their routine, and it's a circular thing, and they don't have something that really nourishes them. Find that thing. Even if it's planting trees on the weekend. If that's your thing, do it. If it nourishes you, do it. But just find that thing, right? Another idea with soul searching is developing a spiritual practice. And I will tell you this, that really has helped me get through the last couple of weeks, the last year, because I talk about the these two really good friends that passed away that over the last week and a half, and the Abuelita that passed away in September. But I don't know how many of you knew, my youngest sister passed away last year, and a cousin passed away last year. I think within 2 weeks of my sister. One of my best friends passed away last year within a week I think within a week of my sister. I think within 5 weeks, there were 3 people who were close to me, and the other was my ex-father-in-law, who also passed away. So four people within a 5-week period. So there's been a lot of loss, a lot of grief over the last year, looking at a year and a half. And we're not just talking about me, we're talking about a lot of people who lost loved ones. So, having a spiritual practice for me has really, really helped with the whole grieving process. So if you don't have a spiritual practice, for some, and spirituality can mean different things to different people. For some people, it's religion. It's getting up every Sunday, you go to church. Getting up every Wednesday, you go to prayer meeting, whatever the case is. For some, spirituality means you get up every morning and you meditate, or you have like certain rituals that you do different times of the month, whatever the case might be, or it means different things to different people. The idea is for you to develop your personal spiritual practice. For me, every single morning, I have to meditate. It sets the tone for my day. There's sometimes when I have to go outside and sit by the water. So the spirituality for me, it's not just a going to church on a Sunday morning, because right now my church going has been kind of sporadic because I was taking care of Abuelita. Now I'm helping to take care of her daughter, and it's just been like it's hard to get to the church building every Sunday morning. But my spirituality is not just going to church. My spirituality involves meditating. It involves prayer. It involves reading the Bible. It involves playing with my sound instruments, from the rain stick to the sound bowl to all of the different tools. So for me, it's a lot more than just going to church, right? So whatever it is that your spiritual practice involves, do that. It involves journaling for me as well. I do have a gratitude journal. I don't have it up here. It's actually over there on my bed. So get into the habit of doing a gratitude practice every single day, right? And you just simply, literally, all you need is a little book like this. Write gratitude journal on there every day. Write your date down and write. You can start out with 3 things: what you're grateful for that day. You can do it in the morning. You can do it in the evening. But the idea is to just do it, right? So have yourself a gratitude journal. Have yourself I just recently started doing this, a productivity journal. I know it sounds like work, but at the end of the day, and in a way, you can kind of tie in the gratitude with the productivity. So you're not necessarily having to do both, because some of the things that I'm grateful for are things that I actually managed to accomplish, because you're, like I said, life kind of throws things at you and you say, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful that I was able to actually get that done today. But so it's entirely up to you. You can have a separate productivity journal, and your separate gratitude journal, whatever the case is. But just journal, right? Doing different rituals. That's what I mentioned earlier. And rituals is not just limited to those people who have some that do full moon rituals. I have some people that do new moon rituals, and we create these vision boards on the new moon. And it's not just, rituals are not just limited to the metaphysical world, or people who are into the metaphysical practices. Going to church on a Sunday, going to church every Sunday, that's a ritual. And I know we don't like necessarily like as Christians to look at it that way, but that's what it is, right? So whatever these rituals are in your, for you, get into the habit of practicing them. There are a lot of companies now that are finding that practicing certain rituals within their business actually helps their business to grow, right? And you can do your own little research on that. There's a lot there on the internet. So you have to know who you are, right? You have to know what makes you happy, right? What do you enjoy doing? You have to really know you, and doing these type of practices really allows you to become more familiar with who you are, because a lot of the times we go through life being who we think people want us to be. Hoping that came all right. And we don't really be who we are placed on the planet to be, right? So we say, well, why are you doing that? Well, I kind of grew up, doing that this whole time, so it just became a part of me. But is it really who you are meant to be, right? So know who you are, know who you want to be, and experience the world authentically from you, not how you think other people want you to experience the world, right? And that's a big part of it right there, because even as adults, we're still kind of stuck in things that we grew up hearing and being told this is what we should do, this is who we should be, this is where we should go, this is how we should behave, right? And we, as adults, we have this whole idea that this is who we're supposed to be, and in reality, we are just kind of playing the role of somebody that we've kind of been trained to be, and it's not really who we are, right? I'm kind of hoping that that's making sense. And understand that the only person that you can control is yourself. You can't control what the other person is doing. You can give suggestions on what you think they should do, but again, you can't control whether they do it or not. The only person that you can really control is you. I know this tonight is a little bit longer than I anticipated, so I'm hoping that this is helping someone out there. Focus on the positive and leave the negative stuff for when you're going through like a period of reflection. I'm not saying that you have to be in this positive, uplifting, thing all the time. Just focus on the positive, and during your journaling time, that's when you reflect on whatever negativity might be coming up. Process all of that down into your journal, right? So you can always go back and you can look at it and you can work through it, think through it, however, and whatever it takes for you to be able to understand how you were feeling in that during that particular time. Look for inspiration in everything. I'm outside, I don't know how many times during the day with my camera. I'm actually in the process of putting together my first amateur nature film. Years ago, I was looking at National Geographic, and when you're watching all of these nature films and just how amazing they look, and I thought to myself, I wonder if I could do something like that. I take a lot of pictures of dragonflies and butterflies and all the birds that are flying around back here, and not just here but wherever I go to these parks, and I'm always doing videos. And I thought to myself, I have amassed quite a collection of videos. So the thought hit me, why don't you create a nature film? And a couple of days ago, I said, you can really put together a nice little amateur nature film. And I thought to myself, why does it have to be amateur? So I completely got rid of that word. I said, I'm going to make a nature film using all of the videos that I've created so far. And stay tuned for that. just keep in mind that, you know, I'm using just a regular camera and just basic editing software, but we shall see. The idea is to look for inspiration in everything, right? So I get my camera every day. I go outside and I take pictures of the birds that are out there. Um, you know, the ant nest that's in the ground, the all the different dragonflies, all the beautiful colors of dragonflies that are back there. I take pictures of the wildflowers that are in the water, the turtles that are basking, the water lilies, and it's just I come in and I download them, and I look at them and I delete some. I said, "Oh, that angle was pretty good. Oh, that's nice." But the thing is, I get inspired by everything, by the wingspan of the birds, the clouds, the way that they move through the sky, the spiral or the round shape of the ant nest, the way that the water, you know, moves whenever the wind blows over it, the way that the reeds kind of dance back and forth whenever the wind is passing through. Just get inspired, right? Just be inspired. If you're walking down I remember being in England, gosh, years ago, and one of the things I can still hear it in my head was walking down the street where Charles Dickens wrote, was it A Christmas Carol? Is it Christmas? I think it was A Christmas Carol. And the cobblestones, as that we were on horseback, and I can still hear the clippity clop of the horse's hooves on the cobblestone, and I can still see that, you know, the way that the design of the cobblestones on there, and I know that that is going to come out in something, but those type of images, you remember them for a reason, right? So just be inspired by everything. Look for inspiration everywhere. And this one that I wrote down, this is the hardest thing for, I think, for everybody, is learning to let go. And I'm putting an asterisk beside that because that is going to come up a lot, I know. Learning to let go. And that's hard. So I'm just gonna leave that there for right now because that's gonna take a little bit more developing. Because it's that's a whole other hour discussion right there, you know. Build meaningful relationships that you care about with like-minded individuals that are going to provide you with a constant source of inspiration and exploration. And I talked about that a little bit earlier on as well, so we won't beat that too much. Develop a support system. These are also going to be most likely developed from the relationships that you start to form. So among these relationships, you'll probably find a support system. Your these people are going to kind of help to increase your feelings of having a sense of purpose, and you'll get a more of an acute sense of the world and your impact on it and your place in it, your purpose here, all of that kind of stuff. And never give up, no matter what is going on. As hard as that is, just never give up. So my question is, I know that we all have those things that are special to us, right? So things that matter to us. How much time do we actually spend doing these things that matter to us? What makes you happy? What makes you healthy? A lot of you know that I'm into the natural health. I was trying to think of the word. Natural health, essential oils, herbs, so sound therapy, all of this stuff. So think about that. What makes you happy? What makes you healthy? How are your relationships? Really, really evaluate or reevaluate those. What do you want to improve about yourself? What do you want to change about yourself or your life? So these are the type of questions I want you to be thinking about. Because now I'm going to give you the 3-tier activity, right? So on your the low tier is what is that one thing that you really miss in your life that you know is soulful, nourishes your soul? What is that one thing? Think about that. Make a list. I think the easiest thing to do is to just make a list of things that you really, really enjoy doing. Um, then kind of put numbers beside them on a scale of 1 to 10, or 1 to however many you wrote down. What comes out as number 1? That one thing that you really, really enjoy doing, right? That one thing that really, really makes you feel so good. And I want you to go and do that. All right. So if creating jewelry is like your thing, go create jewelry. Whatever it is that you need, go acquire it. You don't have to create this on a big scale as you we're just looking for something that nourishes your soul. And if you think back to when you were a child, there was that one thing that you really loved to do, but as you got older, of course, life kind of throws curveballs here, and you decide to become the responsible adult. So all of those things that used to do to nourish your soul, you no longer do them. So think about those little things and start making that list, right? So that's your low tier activity. Your medium tier is to plan some regular soul me time. So you go back to your calendar that I mentioned several times already. Open it up in your phone or wherever whatever calendar you use, and you plan it out. Whether it's an hour a week, 15 minutes a day, couple hours a week, whatever the case might be, plan it into your calendar. Whether you do it before you go to bed, early in the morning, journaling, whatever it is that you're going to do, plan it in your calendar. You'll find, let me see if I can open mine up real quickly. All right, let's just go for today. In the morning, and you might not necessarily consider this me time, but when you consider my schedule, then you'll understand that this is me time. So at 8, no, this is PM. 8 p.m. every night, and I think I've already gone past it. I have time to learn, and time to learn is basically time when I sit down and I do a little bit of studying, or I catch up on some videos for some health summit that I might be watching. So that's like my time. I have my different live streams scheduled. So Wisdom Wednesday, which I haven't really been consistent with, that's going to change. That's one of the things that I've written down that I want to improve on, is being more consistent with my Wisdom Wednesday episodes. But it's more than just that. And then I also have my performance journal that I write in. So that was today. But let's pull up tomorrow. Time to learn. Then there's Thankful Thursdays, and then my performance journal. But there's quite a few. There's this week there was the meditation, and then there's also a particular coach that I watch, and she comes on every Monday at 11. So I go on and I watch hers, and then of course the time to learn. But the idea is to schedule whatever it is, schedule it into your calendar. Whether you're going to do it, whatever it is you're going to do early in the morning, if that's your thing, do it in a night before you go to bed. Pick an hour one day in the week, or pick a weekend out of every month. The idea is to do it. Pick it and do it. And this is basically a time for you to kind of check in with yourself, right? When you're doing this activity, it gives you an opportunity to really examine you. And when you're doing this activity that you enjoy, really check in with how you feel when you're doing this activity. And if you're feeling really, really good, and you you realize just how peaceful, just how calm, just how nourishing this activity is for you, then do more of it. If you realize that, oh, that was on my list and I thought that was like my number one thing, but no, then don't do it anymore and find something else. The idea is to find something that's going to nourish your soul. Okay. Now this is your high tier activity. A little bit more involved, but worth the time if you actually do it. So what you're going to do is, this is your, I'm going to call it a soul pizza. What you're going to do is you're going to draw yourself a circle. Let me give you an idea. Kind of like this. So you're going to draw yourself a circle. You're going to divide it up. I have this divided up into 8. So it could be 6. But I'm going to tell you the areas that it's divided up into, so you'll see where we're coming from. One area is intellectual and character building. And that could also be, you know, the learning where you're maybe working on a couple of classes or personal development courses, whatever the case is. So your intellectual, your character building, that's one slice of the pizza. The next one is health and fitness. The next one is love and relationships. The next slice is your spiritual life. The next slice is family and fun. The next one is community and social. And the next one is career. And the last one is financial. Some of them you can probably tie in. Some people would put career and financial together. I think there could be 2 separate things. So that's why I have 8 slices on this soul pizza. So what you're going to do, you're going to draw yours, draw your circle. You're going to divide yours up into, you know, whatever sections you want yours divided up into. You may have some things slightly different from me, but I think that these are the basics to most people's lives, right? And then what I want you to do is get some colored pencils, and you are going to fill in, kind of shade in the percentage of, or the area of each of those segments where you think you are right now. For example, for health and fitness, if you are just rocking that right now, like there's nothing wrong with you whatsoever, you have the body of a Greek god or goddess, and just everything's perfect about you, then shade in absolutely everything, right? Because there's nothing wrong, nothing needs to be worked on. However, if you realize that your diet could be changed up, that you could be exercising just a little bit more, then maybe you want to just shade in just a tiny area, right? Because you realize that you have a lot of work to do. So, and the more you work on it, then the more you can shade in until that part is like completely. And I don't think for health and fitness, I think that's something that we all will work on a continuous basis. I don't think that's an area that will get filled in completely for any of us, even myself included, because it's something it's something I work on a regular basis, right? Love and relationships, same thing. If you just have the perfect marriage, the perfect relationship, there's absolutely nothing wrong, you never argue, none of that stuff, he's perfect, you're perfect, everything, then shade everything in because you have nothing to work on. But if you realize that, you know, you could work on your communication skills a little bit better or whatever the case is, then you shave in a little bit and you develop from there. And the same thing for everything here, right? Go in and shade in the extent to which you think you've reached. And the blank area will be the part that you're aspiring to get to. So I said this is a little bit more involved because you really do have to sit down and really think about all of these. And this is something that you're going to be working on throughout the rest of the year, as well as into next year and the year after. This is something that just you don't just do it once and forget about it. This is something that's a continuous, something you continuously work on, right? So those are your 3 activities: low, medium, and high. Your low is you just find that one thing that you miss in your life and bring it back in and start working on it. Your medium tier, start to plan out your soul me time. Get it into your calendar and just keep building on that. And then create your soul pizza. That's the highest one. That's going to involve a lot more work, a lot more in-depth, evaluation and reevaluation, so to speak. So that was a combination of Making Mondays Matter, which should have happened like 2 weeks ago, and just a little bit of what's been going on in my part of the world. One of the things that I was reminded of, I mentioned about the cheetah and the gazelle, or the antelope, whatever you want to call it. And then I was reminded of this book that I have, The Body Remembers. And it's, again, was talking basically how we get stuck in that fight, fright, or freeze mode, and how our body kind of remembers. If we don't learn to process everything and heal from it and forgive and move on, if we don't do all of that, then our body locks it in our DNA, and years later, that all of that dis-ease eventually becomes disease, right? And we end up becoming sick. So that reminder from me about the story of and please go and look it up on YouTube. It's such an eye-opener when you see this gazelle, antelope, whatever you want to call it, when you see it actually freeze and act dead, and the cheetah is no longer interested because the cheetah is going to kill something that's not moving. It wants the thrill of the kill, right? So when you see this antelope just freeze, and then after the cheetah goes off and it gets up and it's just doing the shaking off thing and it's literally releasing that energy from that fright, right? When you look at this, you think this is what we are engineered to do. But we as human beings, we have completely forgotten how we're supposed to act under those type of stressful situations. And I heard this quote recently and it blew my mind because I realized just how true it really is. And I'm going to talk about this in another live stream, but I just wanted to throw that. I don't remember the quote exactly, but it's basically that human beings have evolved to be so smart that we are now capable of doing everything possible to make ourselves sick. Even though the human body is designed to heal itself, we are designed to get frightened, we shake it off, we rest, and then we move on. That's what the human body is designed to do. But we have gotten so smart that we get frightened, we freeze, we lock it into our DNA, and to speed forward a few years, we're getting sick. Just imagine that. We've completely forgotten just how amazing this human body is. And that's one of the things that this book here talks about. If you ever this is an older book. It's called The Body Remembers. There's a few versions to this. Just look it up. There's another one called The Body Keeps the Score. Everybody needs to read either The Body Keeps the Score or The Body Remembers. Find that book and read it. It will help you so much. Because when we're talking about, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous systems, if I can get everybody to understand just how crucial it is to live more in the parasympathetic and to really heal that biggest nerve, and yes, all of this, we can relieve ourselves of so much stuff that we go through on a daily basis. Whether we're dealing with, you know, the loss of friends and coworkers and family members, or whatever scare it is that we go through, right? So I know I went on a little bit longer tonight than I usually would, but I really just wanted to. This is like a culmination of the last couple of weeks that I've been postponing and postponing. But I do want to say thank you for being so patient and just allowing me the time. That is just the time for me to process, right? And just the grace, and not sending me horrible messages like, where are you? Why are you constantly changing the time? You know, for those of you who you might have shown up here in the middle of the live stream and you're wondering what I'm talking about, this is recorded. Just feel free to go back and just listen from the beginning. But in a nutshell, I've been working through the passing of two really good friends of mine, literally a week apart, and one of them happened to be a business partner. So it's not. I'm not completely over it. It's gonna be a while before, it'll get easier. But just thank you so much for allowing me to just come on. And the first 30 minutes of this live stream was just basically kind of talking about that. And but just I know that I haven't been as regular in the last couple of weeks, and that is why. Because I just really needed to process. I just really needed to take some time to work through that. And you know, but it was a lesson. Today is just was just me being just very vulnerable, just showing up. I might have sounded a little more thoughtful, and by thoughtful I mean like pensive, because that's kind of where my mind is right now. When you go through something like that, it does make you think a lot. You think a lot deeper. So just thank you for allowing me to share that. I do appreciate that. I do appreciate the time that you've spent here with me as well. I told another business partner, I was talking to him today, and I said, I've got this live stream tonight, and I'm just gonna go on. I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna show up, and whatever happens, happens. And he said, he really appreciates me doing that because he's not there yet, and he's not quite ready for that. And I totally get it, totally understand, and it'll take us some time. Right now, I'm in a good space, and once I get off from here, I will probably spend a few minutes crying, because it took a lot to come on, and took a lot to come on here and not break down on camera. But I know that I needed to show up, because I know there are members of my community that really do look forward to my not to sound, but to kind of look forward to my little nuggets of wisdom, I guess, right? Just so I did want to show up, but I also didn't want to. I don't like to come on looking like I don't go through hardships, that I don't go have challenges. And I think that's one of the messages that I don't want to be that coach that acts as if, oh, life is just always perfect. And right now I'm going through one of the toughest moments. In less than 2 months, I've lost 3 people who were very close to me. One of the two of them I kind of expected, but one of them was very sudden and really threw me for a loop. And so I'm working through that, and I appreciate you allowing me to share that on share that here with you. Today's Wednesday. I have a lot that's coming up over the next year. That's one of the things I'm going to be talking about on the next live stream. Is things that I have planned for the following year, and different challenges that I want to do with my community. Some of them are going to be really hard, and that's what challenges are. They're supposed to be hard. I'm not going to give you something that's meant to be easy, but it's going to be something that will really develop you and really allow you to step into that next best version of you. I will give you a little bit more detail as I get a lot more of the detail, down on paper. But there's quite a few things ranging from an oil pulling challenge. And I've written about this in the past. It's something I do on a daily basis, and I will hold a challenge for that, but it's a 30-day challenge because I do believe that it takes about 30 days in order for you to really see and feel the results of an oil pulling challenge. I've seen it done, 2 weeks, 5 days. No, to really get into a good habit of oil pulling, I think it takes at least 3 weeks. But I'm going to do it for a month with you, and I'm going to be with you every step of the way. And it's like a 10-minute thing a day, but I'm going to form a group specifically for this. And we will do this. I will come with you every single day, and we will do this oil pulling challenge for 30 days. And the results are going to be amazing. And you're probably thinking, 30 days, swishing a little bit of oil around in your mouth, and it's going to be, trust me on this. Okay. And then there I have a few other challenges that we're going to be doing as well. But we're going to start off 2022 with a bang. Okay, we're just going to, but I'm going to help you to plan it all the way up till the end of the year, so that come January, we're going to just jump right in and we'll be ready to go. All right, but I will be there with you with each step of the way. God's willing, because, life, right? So I'm going to go ahead and stop here. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to share, and thank you for spending this time with me. I did go on a little bit longer than anticipated, but that's the beauty of live streams. We talk, we interact, and we share, right? So have a really great night. I'm having a hard time adjusting to the time change. I don't know about you. This time of the year, I know we go back an hour, and we actually gain that hour, but it's not my favorite time of year. It gets dark early. And that's another thing that I'm going to be sharing a little bit more of, that there's some people this time of the year that develop what's called seasonal affective disorder. Basically, they don't like when it gets cold, and they get depressed and that sort of thing. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more, because I don't necessarily develop that, but I don't like the getting dark so early and that sort of thing. So that's one of the things I will be discussing in another live stream, because even though we gain that hour, the fact that it gets dark so early in the day, not for me. I'm a springtime girl. Lose the hour, but give me 9 o'clock daylight, right? So, but we'll talk a little bit more about that as time goes on, because I know in the lupus community, especially when you're dealing with a chronic illness like that, and then you have especially if you live in a northern state and it gets cold and it snows and it gets dark early, then you're dealing with a chronic illness. All of that compounds. So I want to make sure that, those of you in my community who are dealing with that I really do, I want to let you know that I do see you, And if you're experiencing anything, kind of certain feelings, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to somebody that you can trust, reach out to a therapist. There's nothing wrong with going for therapy. If you need that, please go and find. But like I said, I'm going to be discussing that a little bit further, but I just wanted to make sure I put that out there, that I do understand this time of the year does kind of, contribute to a lot of other issues, right? So feel free to either send me a message, talk to a good friend, somebody you can really trust, or go and find a therapist to speak to as well. All right. So but on that note, thank you again for being here. I do appreciate you spending the time with me, and yeah, I will see you again real soon on another one of my live streams. Most likely, probably this coming Monday. But I may jump on sometime between now and then too. All right. Have a good night, everybody.